Welcome back to The World's Last Night. My name is James Thayer. I am actually recording in my car right now. I wanted to check out to see if it's feasible for me to record using a set of headphones and a mic in my vehicle. And if that is true, if this sounds okay, not really crummy like the last time I tried with speakerphone, then you might be getting these little bonus episodes more frequently as I drive home in rush hour traffic. I have plenty of time to chat. Today I plan on doing the next Exodus chapter when I get home, but I also wanted to do a little bonus episode talking about creating a family values. I guess not really a charter, I guess would be a better word for it. Creating a family values charter. So my wife and I recently spent about 2 hours sitting down, and we kind of went through the Art of Manliness's guide to creating basically a family mission statement. And it's based around this idea that companies have mission statements, and if companies have mission statements, why not a family? So there's this concept of family culture really being cultivated to impact children, the parents, but it's in order to leave some sort of legacy and ripple throughout the future time. So when you go to Proverbs, and Proverbs talks about children, there's several different lights that they're cast in, but really my favorite is basically where it says that children are a gift from the Lord, and the man who has them is blessed because they have a full quiver, basically, of them. Now, quiver is the little pouch that a archer would carry their arrows in. And the way I interpret that is these are weapons. Children are somewhat weapons, and you can shoot them out and fire them into culture, into politics, into business, into relationships. Basically, you can shoot them into the world and leave a impact, some sort of lasting impact from you. So having a culture, a family culture that is going to train up these children in such a way that that impact is good and honors God, to me seems like a fairly good proposition. Now, my wife, okay, this is actually kind of funny. When I got married, I actually wrote a sort of mission statement mantra for my would-be family at the time, because we weren't married yet, and I was writing this leading up to our wedding, and I wanted to sort of read this out loud, her sign off on it, read it out loud to everyone in the audience. Now, if you attended my wedding, you probably were tired of hearing me read, because my vows were like 2.5 pages long, and you probably would not have appreciated me also telling you a family mission statement I had drafted that was long-winded and heavy in philosophy. But Allie, my wife, quickly shut this concept down. She thought it was weird, and we did not do it. Thus, that sort of got tabled, and she probably doesn't even remember that, because lo and behold, about a month ago, actually no, sooner than that, not even a month ago, a couple weeks ago, Allie basically said that she wanted to establish what our family values were. And this basically comes from her trying to figure out how to navigate raising children. And sorry, someone's cutting me off in traffic. That's good. Her figuring out how to navigate raising children and her career at the same time. So I was at a sort of fall festival. It's called Walden Farms. It's a really cool place to bring your family during the fall. They have like mazes and stuff. I was doing that with our church, and I was meeting tons of new couples in the church, and basically one of them started to tell me that she has 3 kids, and she did wedding photography on the weekends, and her husband works full-time, and she basically also said, but I don't work every weekend because of our family values. They're like, we filter everything through that. And I was like, that's kind of interesting. And then they brought it up again in the conversation, talking about, well, our family values. Like, this is how we make decisions regarding things. And I feel like it's probably prioritization. They want to prioritize their children so that she doesn't want to be working, every weekend, but some of them just to bring a little bit of extra money into the family, which is awesome. I told that to my wife, who is struggling with figuring out work and family and all that. And she's like, oh man, yeah, I really want one of those. And so what did I do? I went back to the very same article that I had been previously using to draft our family mission statement, and we went through it together. So hey, conversation 5 minutes later, I'm back to the beginning, which is we sat down for 2 to 3 hours to write out all these things. Well, on theartofmanliness.com, it's a blog, by the way, it's very long, actually. There's several questions that you can answer to try to figure out what your family values. One of the interesting things to me when it came to the values themselves was you are not supposed to put down values that you want to cultivate or that you feel would look good if you were to post these on social media. And instead, you are only supposed to put values down that are actually part of your family culture, things you actually exhibit. I thought that was really cool and challenging and really made me look at myself and my wife and figure out that, well, there are several places that we lack that we would like to grow in and do better at, because we came up with certain values that we just couldn't really put in there. And secondly, it's like we're a family, so these have to be things that me, my wife, and my child all kind of agree on. Whereas there's some values that I have, for example, like stoicism or personal academic pursuit. Those kinds of things I value. My wife doesn't really value as much. We don't exhibit it as a family culture, so we can't put that kind of stuff down. And then the same is true for things that my wife does that I don't. So ultimately, we had to throw away a lot of values that we don't share as a family. And then that really pushed us to narrow it down, which is great, because as you may know, the best art comes out of restraints and limitations. So putting those restraints and limitations upon it, I think, produced a better set of values for our family. So in addition to this, there is also another restraint the blog places upon you during this exercise. Is basically you can only choose values that, even if it hurt you, you would try to uphold. Even if you had to punish your children for disobeying them, you would try to uphold. Even if it cost you reputation, money, time, all of that. And so that really helped, because then we went through our list and we were like, well, if this thing hurt us, would we still uphold this? And that helped us cross off several more. Now, one that really bothered my mom after we came up with our list for my wife and I is she basically said she was bothered by the fact that I had nixed kindness as a family value. She thinks that Allie and I are very kind. But Allie and I kind of know a little better. It's not that we don't love people, and it's not that we're not generous and all of that, but kindness to me sort of is someone who, even if they see the flaw, they are willing to not be confrontational about it. So, in a sense, kindness and candidness don't really go together. And candidness is definitely a family value that Allie and I have. So I guess I want to explain that a little bit better. If someone says, like, hey, do you think I did the right thing when I treated Joe so-and-so? If you want to be kind, oftentimes if you actually believe that they did the wrong thing, you won't say it. You'll try to make excuses. You'll try to, hand out golden stars on both sides, that kind of thing. But for me and Allie, I think we both kind of exhibit more of a candidness, where if someone were to say, did I treat them wrong? And we actually believe they treated them wrong, we're going to tell that person and be very upfront with them. Because ultimately, we believe that candidness is kindness in a sense, where we would rather you have the truth than sugar and water and soft soap. Even if the truth is hard and might hurt, we think that in the end it's going to make you a better person to know it. So that's why we didn't include kindness, because we don't really see ourselves as that kind compared to what traditionally, I guess, kindness would be defined as. So this process was really fun and somewhat arduous at times, because we got to connect on a deep level, on a philosophical level. Like, what are the things that we love the most? And so one of those is like entrepreneurship. That's one of our values. Allie has tried several different entrepreneurial endeavors, doing cake pops. She owns her own, or she does her own salon business, hair and makeup. She did nail art at one time. And then I myself, film festival, distribution, launching a network, video production company. So entrepreneurship is definitely in our family values. We had several others, like faith. That was our first, number one big one. Everything else sort of gets filtered through that. And in the end, we came up with a list of 7 or 8, maybe 9, 7, somewhere in there. I have to count those, that we really thought typified the values that our family would uphold, and ones that we want to teach Ella, our daughter, and hopefully future children too. Now, cool thing about this exercise is you're supposed to, not routinely, but occasionally come back and see if you want to modify these values and your mission statement, which I'll get to in a second. So you're supposed to look at it a lot like modifying the Constitution, which is something that almost should never be done. I mean, without something drastically changing, you shouldn't do it. But, for example, introducing a new party, such as when our daughter becomes of age to understand, around 5 to 7 years old, we'll probably start to let her have some input in our family values to see if there's anything she thinks that we should add to it, because she brings something to the table, which was another thing. We went through and we had to define what each family member brings to the table, and that was really awesome, because I loved defining Allie, and obviously a little bit of myself. She defined me, I defined her, and then we both got to define Ella. And defining Ella was great because, I think her number one defining characteristic that Allie and I agreed on is that she brings everyone joy. Strangers, family members, her own parents. She just exudes joy. And she has several other things. She's probably the smartest person in our little family. She probably has a higher IQ than me or Allie does. Just noticing how she is learning, how quickly she's developing, all that. Problem solving is off the charts. So we got to sort of define what each person brings to our family. So another example is my wife brings organization, stability and routine to our family. That's something that I don't really bring us very well. But I bring money, which is a value. I can hustle. That was one of the things we put down is if we need money quickly, I got about 7 different ways I can make that happen. And that adds some value to our family. So it was overall a really cool exercise. Now the end thing you're supposed to get out of it is a mission statement, which for us, it had about 9 to 11 lines in it. And we basically talk about who we are. One of my favorite ones is we are producers, not consumers. And I really like that one. I thought it was 100% true. Allie and I are constantly producing things. Now that doesn't just mean video production, but we do that also. But today, for example, I went into work, I rented gear out, that's producing a service. I then edited some stuff for Nissan, producing video. I cut some stuff up for this network we're launching, producing that. I'm also writing and scripting stuff with several other producers. And then I also wrote an essay this morning, so I'm producing some sort of intellectual work that I posted on Facebook. And then I'm right now sitting in the car producing a podcast. So I want our family to be the kind of family that is always pushing ideas out into the world and trying to impact our neighbors and our culture for God, for the good. To be servants, in a sense, no matter which discipline we pick up. We want to be producing and not consuming. Consumers, on the flip side, people who play video games all the time, that's consuming entertainment. Watching tons and tons of television or movies, that's consuming. So those aren't bad. You want to do those things in, what's the word I'm looking for? Starts with an M. Come on, guys. You probably know the word I'm looking for. Moderation. You want to do those things in moderation. And escapism, in my mind, is actually a necessity for living in a fallen world. Reading things like Narnia or watching Star Wars or anything like that, you do need some escapism, because that escapism reminds us that this world's imperfections are not hopeful. It reminds me anyways that there are other worlds. That's a better way to put it. There are other worlds. And in my Christian faith, there's a heaven. So escapism is great because it constantly reminds me of heaven. Fairy tales remind me of heaven. So I've done talks on that in the past. But we don't want to be consumers. We don't want to be vegged out all the time and do nothing but eat and read and listen to what other people are putting out in the world. We want to put out stuff too, because we believe that we have something to say, something to do, something to offer, some service to give, and ultimately we want to advance God's kingdom. We don't want to just take people's money, for example. We want to actually work hard, make money, so we have a superfluous amount of it, hopefully, to be able to then give away. And even then, another one of our mission statements lines that we wrote down was we give what was it exactly? We give until it hurts us. Something along those lines. I'll have to look it back up. But it really comes down to something C.S. Lewis wrote, where he basically said that, people aren't really in consensus about how much you should give as a Christian, but he said you should sort of evaluate other people living at your income level, and if you are able to live that same lifestyle as other people, you're probably not giving enough. You should always be living a lifestyle lower than your income. It should always hurt you some when you give, or else you're probably not giving enough. And that's something that Allie and I try to embrace. Even while we're trying to save up for this land, one thing that God told me was never forget your obligation to give, even while you are trying to save an absurd amount of money to buy land. Because ultimately, all of that money comes from God, and we're supposed to be good stewards of it, which was one of our values, actually, was stewardship. Another one was tithing. In any case, that was like another one of our, mission statement bits is, we give even when it hurts, or we give more than we can. I'll have to look it up. So I highly recommend, as a family, going through this values and mission statement creation process. It really puts you on the same page. And one of the big cool things two cool things about it. One is you can hold each other accountable to it. And Allie and I have actually started to do this, and we've started to filter things through our family values. We will say something, like, I don't know if we should give to this person or to this thing, and then we refer back to our family mission statement on giving, and we say, okay, if this is actually our culture and our values, we have to do this. So we do it. And you can use your mission statement and your values to hold each other accountable, to make each other better people. And secondly, it's kind of like being on the inside of a secret club. It's cool because right now there's only 3 members of this little family. And we're the only ones that have this culture, these value systems that we're creating. And having that exclusion is actually really cool. It's like being part of a gang or something. And you grow closer because of that. So that's all I got to say on this. I hope this isn't terrible sounding in the car. Like I said, I plan on doing Exodus here in a little bit. Until then, this is James from The World's Last Night.